and
Okay, we are live, more or less. Yeah. So we are in chapter 14 now. We're sort of about halfway through it. So in the Hebrew, we are on the page Yud Tet, and it's a line. It's about 8 lines from the top. Ta'am, and then if you move to the left, it says Om Nom Gamba Voda Bechinat Shiflut. Okay, and in the English, it's page.
however, the perspective is it must undergo a process of preparation.
Yeah. So the next paragraph, which says the second approach, that of humility.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. So what we've been talking about is that there are generally two sort of modalities of serving Hashem, and we're talking about how even when we are someone who's in the category of that from the hostility towards another person. Of course, the great irony of this is that sometimes it's a tremendous irony. A person developed themselves religiously and works on themselves spiritually. It doesn't necessarily mean that a person has overcome the challenges of loving another person, accepting other people, tolerating other people. Sometimes it could be the opposite. If you actually don't believe in anything, it's easy to be tolerant. But if you believe in something, it can be harder to be tolerant. Right. So that's just an example of how there's sort of this ironic, that a person who takes Hashem more seriously and wants to do Hashem's will, that actually can be a challenge. But that's just a general statement. But on a specific level, we're talking about how the two general modalities, about serving Hashem with joy, on the one hand, and serving Hashem with humility, shiflut, and that each of those modalities of serving Hashem has its own challenges in terms of ahavat Yisrael, to be able to love another person truly, rather than feeling hostility, adversarial relationship, envy, etc. And what we had discussed yesterday is that when a person loves Hashem out of joy, out of love, so the interesting thing is that doesn't necessarily at all mean that the person is loving Hashem in an egoless way. And the bottom line of what we said yesterday was that if a person is involved in spirituality, is involved with Hashem in order to quench their spiritual thirst, that I guess it's better than other ways of quenching thirst, but it's actually flowing from a sense of I-ness. Right? I am thirsty. So I'm thirsty. So I want to quench my thirst. Right? So it's a kind of spiritual hedonism. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that going on outside of traditional Judaism, the New Age kind of Judaism, all that kind of stuff. That's definitely,
like the type stuff.
Feed me. It's just a different form of hedonism. And when it's flowing from feed me, right, where fundamentally there's a very strong, substantial sense of self, then so that is not a type of modality of service of Hashem which is self-transcending at all. It's just hedonism of a kind of a refined sort. Okay, now we're now doing the second half of this chapter, which is the second modality, the other modality, which is shiflut, serving Hashem out of great humility. So that actually sounds like, oh my gosh, it's the exact opposite of being egotistical. Look how humble that person is. So that's what you might think. But now here's sort of the bad news.
It's almost like Zen here,
The way it's sort of these ironies. So let's do this the second part here. Right. This is that joke. So he says the following. So he says, even the way of serving Hashem out of humility, as mentioned above, even though you might think that in a general sense, when you serve Hashem out of humility, that's a reduction of ego, you think. This can also flow completely from ego. Oh my gosh. Where does that leave everybody? Where does that leave us?
In a cage.
Yeah,
Like
of our own creating. When a person has a strong sense of their own being, their own self, even while being broken, that actually is a kind of ego experience. So therefore, that kind of humility is not really humility. The old kind vefes mamash. It's not really a feeling of being nothing, right? You're just a broken something.
Yeah. It says a broken and contrite heart. I think when we get smashed like that, it changes us in some ways.
Yeah. The only problem is, like you said, if you're a broken something, then that's not the goal, right? The goal is to be a nothing. This is a high goal.
In Georgia, I learned from my Hasidic rabbis that we serve God with both our ego, both our Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, and with our egos for good and not good. So we're serving God in every way. It's better to be Betul. Is that how you say Betul?
Yeah, Betul. Have Betul, right?
It's better, but there's very few of us who really reach that
Well,
level.
we are the elite few on our way to perfection in this room. So we're striving high here.
Thank you so much. We're working on it.
Yeah, only people that are on that level are allowed in here. How could it be that person is serving Hashem through shiflut, through this humility, but somehow it's actually, there's a substantial sense of ego there? It's because the shiflut, that sense of humility, the sense of doing an accounting, right? We talked about being a CPA, certified public accountant, but on a spiritual level, it's not really internalized in the deepest core of their being. Because in fact, if it was really touching that person in the innermost aspect of their heart, that if a person really did that type of self-scrutiny, there would be a complete sense of nothingness. But if it's not really internalized, it's not really touching to the core of one's being, that is not really flowing from a true ultimate sense of humility and self negation. Here's this irony, and this is so true, that even when a person is ostensibly serving Hashem in this mode of humility, that there actually could be in the hiddenness of one's heart a kind of haughtiness. Within the hiddenness, there's a haughtiness. That sounds good. A little bit of alliteration. Because there's a kind of, wow, I am so brokenhearted. I am so upset with myself. And another part of the heart says, look how pious I am. I'm so upset about myself. This is amazing. I'm so from that it's like this ironic ego pleasure from being upset with oneself.
Could it be
that one's brokenness, one's contrition is actually an expression of ego.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Could it be like, well, look, I'm more broken than this person. I can really,
Okay.
I can break myself down big,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would be sort of the most grotesque expression of that. But I think even without that, that's like the famous joke, but and certainly true. But I think even more subtle than that, where it's not so much directed to, look, I'm more broken than him, right? But even looking in the mirror, like, look how broken I am. Like, oh, that's cool. I'm really, this kind of like perverse self-pleasure that one gets out of beating oneself up. Of course, this is more in the department of our resident psychologist over here. People who are engaged in constant self-recrimination, rumination,
like cutting yourself or
yeah,
pulling your hair
the
out
self
or
that
eating
actually
pizza
it's
out
feeding all the
Yeah.
self-destructiveness is actually
Yeah.
feeding some distorted sense of self. You're doing it on a subconscious level in order to meet some kind of distorted ego need on some kind of weird level. So
anorexia and bulimia are part of that.
all these acts of self-destruction are actually feeding one's distorted ego. Question is, how do you get out of this? וגם שזה בהלם נפשו, אבל הוא מעצם הישות שלו שנשאר קיים עדיין. So even though it's like subtle and it needs a professional who has X-ray, a spiritual, psychological vision to be able to peer into the inner recesses of the heart, but if you could do a CAT scan of that person's deep kishkas inside, we would see that, man, it's really flowing from, I should say, from an ego place. Okay. Okay. Hang on one second. Okay. Okay. So this type of worshiping Hashem in the modality of shiflut, of humility, actually undermines one's whole spirituality. Shemirut v'shiflut enu poel yeshuot b'nafsho b'sikuch hamidot. It's not really purifying oneself. V'shiyeh b'darkei hator mitzvot kedavai l'mahave. This is not serving Hashem through Torah mitzvot in the way it should be. V'zot hanesiba she'im yoto v'havaya mikol makom liot she'ha'avodah eno kedavai l'mahave b'chinat bitul ki im b'chinat yeshut u'mergol kanal. That's why that even though we're serving Hashem with humility or the joy, first half of this chapter, that's why we don't get along with other people. We don't really feel a sense of collegiality with other people. Why? Because as long as things are flowing from ego, then we're not able to really tolerate truly other people. Because that other person somehow represents a threat to my substance. Because as long as I'm a something, there's only room for a certain amount of something in this room, right?
Yeah, but you can't be with every person on the street. You can't be with every person that comes into your life. Birds of a feather flock together when you have things in common.
Yeah, no, that's true. You don't have to be everybody's best friend, but the sense of somehow that person's taking away something from me. That's what he's talking about now, right? And as long as you're a something, right? As long as we're a something, like I said, there's only room for a certain amount of somethings in any room. So someone comes in this room, hey, wait a second. You're taking my airspace. There's only a certain amount of oxygen in this room, and because I don't want you breathing my oxygen. And this is the way. Obviously, you don't think about this consciously, but this is the way we are on a deeper psychological level. We can't really truly bond with that person, and we end up feeling hostility. And it getting worse, where not only do you somehow feel like, hey, he's breathing my air, but you then actively do something to kind of like on some kind of subtle way that nobody would really notice to indicate that person over there who's taking my airspace and my air, that they're really actually somehow something's wrong with them, and try to indicate it to other people that way, but in subtle ways, so you don't look like a Rasha. You don't look like you're evil, but you make sure you do it. So you don't want anybody to compare that person to you in a way that would somehow take away something from you, or God forbid, as it were, that the person should be greater than you, right? That's the root of all the inability, the hostilities, the quarrels, the fights, the hostilities, the antagonism, because we're a something. even if we somehow think that we're serving Hashem through humility. Especially, here's the irony, if you see a person that they actually seem to have something on a spiritual level that's admirable.
Yeah.
Wow, that person over there that, they're a Torah scholar, or they're very careful how they observe mitzvahs, somehow you'll find a way to twist it around and make something bad out of it. Yichos mode, it's actually on some level going to annoy you, right? Because they're pushing against your space. So there's also this envy, asher kashek shol kina. And there's a famous pasuk that envy is as hard as the grave, or the hell, however you want to translate the word Sheol, right? Envy is rots one's whole being, right? And this is what happens. You're actually envious in a negative sense of other people who are also trying to grow spiritually. This is all sinat chinam, basis hatred. The person didn't do anything to you. They're just taking up your airspace. They're breathing your air. They're not taking away from you, not taking away your money. They're just minding their own business, but it's more than we can handle. See, and this is the amazing thing, and it's so hard to do. It's not a zero-sum party. There's not a limited amount of airspace in the person's taking away air. Hashem's blessings are infinite. That person's success, that person's achievements, don't take anything away from mine. But this is not the way we experience things, unfortunately. And as we know, that when a person feels hostility towards a person because of jealousy, it's very hard to repair that, because it's flowing from a true lack of an ability to feel Hashem's true presence. Because if we felt Hashem's true presence, that we're really just a drop of water in the ocean, we would never feel envy, never feel jealousy, never feel threatened, because there's plenty of blessings for us all. There's plenty of room, there's plenty of airspace for us all. Okay, we'll pause here, and then tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to go on with new chapter 15. I just want to reiterate that starting after Shavuos, we're going to be learning 4 days a week. 4 days a week. Sounds like a song.
8 days a week.
8 days a week.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
I need to do koshering on my brain. There's a Beatles lyric in there. Instead of the Torah, there's a Beatles lyric. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Bezrat Hashem, after Shavuos. I want to wish everybody a beautiful day, and a day of feeling like a real nothing.
Well, right now we're watching